Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan. So a couple of weeks ago, I made a video about working with SVG files with the Brothers Scan and Cut. And I've struggled with this over the years because our native format for our machine is FCM instead of SVG. So sometimes the SVG files don't play nice with our software and with the machines. So I talked about three different kind of categories of SVGs. We talked a little bit about the fabric cutting, and I've not really ever had any trouble cutting fabric with my scan and cut with an SVG. I would guess it's because that's for embroidery generally, and people probably are using embroidery software to produce that cut file, and they're controlling the size with the embroidery design. So I've never really had much trouble with that. But the things that I've had troubles with is using SVG files like for crafting and other types of paper crafting and then just crafting in general. So I've always kind of shied away from using SVG files. So tonight, what I'm going to do is, I talked in the first video, SVG files and the Brothers Scan and Cut. I will go ahead and link that video in the description below this one. But the first category then was, the fabric cutting. So we're not going to talk about that tonight, but we're going to talk about one of the other two. One of the other two kind of sections that I talked about were layered designs and large SVGs. So layered SVG files and larger SVG files. So tonight it's actually evening when I'm filming this. I'm going to talk about the layered SVG files. So we're going to make a little project. So I just wanted to show you from start to finish how I make these projects and show you the steps for, completely, instead of just talking about it and doing a little bit in the software like I did in the other one. The other video is more of a, like a introduction to what you can do. So let's just make a little project. So this little project here is it's called Nativity Mandala. It's got 4 layers to it. So we're going to cut out the layers using the software and what I've learned about, sending it to the machine and everything and checking the sizes and all that. This is a design from craftwithsarah.com. I will also link all of this information in the description below this video. Sarah has beautiful designs, and all you need to do to get this design is to go to her website, craftwithsarah.com, make an account there, and then you'll have access to a lot of beautiful free designs. I mean, this was a free design, and she just does so many beautiful things, and so I think you'll enjoy working with some of those things. And I will also link that in the description below the video here. Okay, so let's just talk about this. So again, this is a paper craft. We're going to cut this out of paper on the scan and cut here. I'll talk about the paper in just a few minutes when we get to the point of cutting. So we're going to start with the software, and we're going to bring in this design. So here's our little design. I'll just leave it set there for a moment. And I'm going to switch over to my software, so give me a moment. Okay, so here is Canvas Workspace. This is the downloadable version that we used in the other video. And we're just gonna start from the beginning of this little project and go to the end, and then I'll even put the project together for you. That was a couple of the questions I received after I did the first video, is that people weren't understanding how to put them together, so we'll put it together at the end. And also just going through the steps of sending it to the machine for each layer, okay? All right, so we got our software open here. The first thing we need to do is get our design into the software. So I'm going to click the little SVG button here. It's import from your computer. You can click the little icon on the left-hand toolbar, or you can go up to File, Import from your computer here under the File menu. Okay, so it depends on which one you like. I usually use the little icon. And then I'm going to go find my design, my Craft with Sarah design, and it's in my folder on my desktop here, so give me a second to find it. Let's see here, where is it? Oh, there it is, Craft with Sarah, and it's called Nativity Mandala. So you should be able to find this on her website by going to her website and logging in, and you'll have to create an account so you'll have access to it. So let's see. Here it is, Nativity Mandala. So I wanted to let you know too, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but she has some lovely instructions on here which are really great, that gives you a chance to use to help you put it together and so on, and I'll show you that in a moment. She also has some nice pictures of the project so that you can see what's coming up and that type of thing. But then she provides the SVG file. So that's SVG file is right here. On my computer, it comes up looking like the Microsoft Edge icon. So just because I don't have another viewer on here right now. So that's how it comes up. So it says SVG there. And we're just going to click on that and we're going to open it. And it opened up on the screen. Very, very small. So that was one of the things we talked about in the other video, is that I never know how SVGs are going to come up in my software. So this particular one came up with colors in it. Some of the ones that I've done just come up all the layers are black for some reason. This one did come up with some colors in it, but you notice that it's incredibly small. It's about 2 by, under 2, which obviously can't be the right size. So I have some free software on my computer, and we're going to look at that just briefly here. So, and you can download this. I will also link this. I also have a Cricut, so I have the Cricut Design Space software on my computer. This is free. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to have a Cricut to use it. But it's nice because sometimes it helps you know what size things are. So I'm just going to double click on this Cricut software. It's called Cricut Design Space, and you can just go to Cricut.com and you can download it for free. And I'll put the link up in the description also. Okay, so it's going to open up here. And I'm going to go to the top tab here that says Canvas. And I need to get that design up in here so that I can see how big it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go down the left toolbar here, and I'm going to click the button Upload. So I'm going to click that button, and then it's going to bring up this screen here. And I'm going to click Upload Image, and I'm going to browse. So we're going to go find that design. It opened up in the same folder that I was already in, so it's my Nativity Mandala, and I'm just going to click the SVG file and click Open. And it's going to upload on my screen then. So I'm going to click Continue in the bottom right corner. And then here it gives you a chance to name it and all that. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I don't care what the name is right now, because I just need to see how big this is. So I'm going to click the word Upload. And it's going to upload onto my design space here. And the design space, since it's selected, you can see that I have this, there's a box around this, our mandala. And it is selected, and it is 7 inches wide by 7.44 inches high. And if you look here, when it's selected, it also tells you that right here at the top of the design. So obviously the 2 by whatever it was is not the right size. So I'm just going to minimize this software. And I'm going to bring back open my Canvas Workspace software. And I'm just going to draw a box around all of that. You can also go to Edit, Select All, to select the entire design at the same time, because we need to make sure everything goes up together size-wise. Okay? Then I'm going to go over to the right where it says Properties, and the second icon down on the right is Edit. So I'm going to click on Edit, and this is where it will allow me to change the size. So the second, not the XY, but the width and height boxes. I also have Maintain Aspect Ratio checked. So that means it's going to go up in together so that everything it doesn't like skew the design. So I'm going to go ahead, and it said the width in the other software was 7 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the 1.98. That's what it said. It was 1.98 by 2.1. Well, we know that's not quite big enough. So I'm going to click the width and I'm going to type in 7.0. Since the maintain aspect ratio is checked, when I hit tab on my keyboard, it will change both of them together, and look, it's miraculously 7.44 inches tall. Isn't that amazing? It all came up to the size it's supposed to be. So I really can't tell you why SVGs do this in our software, or in the machine for that fact. I would assume it has something to do with the software that many of the SVG artists use. They've used a variety of softwares, and it probably has something to do with the way it's saved or the software they're using. I don't know. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just the way it comes into our software. So this is how I've gotten around it. Okay, so now we have the right size. Our mandala is the right size. So the next step in this procedure would be to go to the Layers tab. So we can see the 4 layers of this mandala. This one only has 4 layers. So the Layers tab is the second one from the bottom. It looks kind of like a bunch of piece of paper stacked up on top of each other. And I'm going to click on that. And here it shows me the pieces of my mandala. Okay, so normally the last piece, the piece that's on the back, is at the bottom, and then there's one above that, and then there's another one above that, and then the one at the top. So the main one at the top, that's the main picture kind of at the top. Okay, so if you had gotten into this, and let's say that all the colors were black, this is also where we could go and choose each layer and get the color that we want, so that it is the appropriate color and not all black, because then you can see the pieces. Now this particular one came in with the right color. So like the last shape, that's the back piece, we're going to cut that first. And then that's kind of a medium blue. And then the next one up is a very light blue. And then the third one up from the bottom is more of a royal blue. And then this last one, it looks like it's black on the screen, but I want to make it navy blue. So I'm going to show you how to change the color. So I'm just going to select that particular one, okay? And then I'm going to go over here where it is, this is the fill color right here at the top. So I can click on that. This little color palette's going to come up, and then I can go down here to this nice navy blue down here, and I can click OK. And that will change that to navy blue. So then I have my 4 different blues. Okay, so that's the second thing that I do. I look at the layers, I change the colors. In this case, we had to also change the size before we started because it came in a different size. Most of Sarah's stuff, craftwithsarah.com, most of her things have come in the right size. But every now and then I'll run across one that doesn't. So maybe she has a couple of different software she uses. I don't know for sure. It's just, I can't tell you. It's kind of a mystery to me. And this is what I've learned, that I have to kind of just mess around in the software and get it to come up the right size. In this case, I opened up in the free Cricut software and just to see what size it comes up. SVGs are more of a native format for the Cricut. Unlike our machines, it's FCM. So everything usually comes up in the Cricut software the right size. Also, a lot of these artists are Cricut users, so they're designing for the Cricut. So the free software, if you're not sure, just go download it. Then you can open it up real quick to see how big it is. Okay, so now we're ready to cut. So we're going to start with the shape down here at the bottom, and that's going to be kind of a medium or lighter blue. So I have 4 colors of paper here, and so let me change my camera to the other camera so you can see. Give me a second here. I just have to switch over. Okay. So we're going to start with this back piece right here, and then we're going to cut the lighter blue piece, and then this medium blue, and then this dark blue. So I'll lay this up here for right now. And here's our papers. So these are cardstock, and this is 65-pound cardstock. My favorite to cut on the machines actually is 65 or 80 pound. The 100-pound paper, that cardstock that you find is very, very fibrous, and it doesn't always cut real cleanly. So this 65-pound paper is Recollections brand from Michaels. It cuts very well on the machines. And then I get 80-pound paper very often at Hobby Lobby. So either one of those will work very well. So we're going to use these 4 colors. So here's the one that's going to be on the back. Okay, so here's the back piece. And then we're going to do this lighter piece, and then this kind of medium, and then this darker piece. Okay, so these are the 4 pieces I'm using. These are 65-pound from Recollections cardstock from Michaels. Okay, so I have loaded, you can see I've loaded my mat in my Scan and Cut here. Let me wake my Scan and Cut up. And we're going to go back to the software for just a minute because we're going to send our design. All right, so since we want to just send one piece at a time, because there's 4 different colors here, right? We want to, there's the other thing that I can do in this Layers tab that just makes it so much easier, is I can turn off these little eyeballs. I can click on these little eyeballs, and it will turn off the layers that I don't want to work with at that moment. So I can then turn them off, okay? And I've got one left down here, and it's that back piece, and that's what we're going to work with first. So I am going to then, I've got the other 3 turned off. I've just got the one I want, and I'm going to go up to File, Export, Transfer FCM File. I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to give me a warning. And the warning says the objects that have been set as hidden are not available to export. That's absolutely fine because we just want to work with the one thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm cool with that. Then it's going to bring this up. It'll let me export it to my computer or like a USB stick if I want. I can transfer it via the internet, and that's what I'm going to use. Or if you happen to have a USB cable hooked up to your Scan and Cut, you can also use that. Okay. Just want to make sure that I got the right thing on here. I think I do. Okay, we're good. So we're going to hit Transfer FCM File via the internet. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to send it to my machine. It says that it's ready to download the transferred file from the internet. Okay, we're good. Now let's go back to the machine. Okay, so I've already loaded my mat. I sometimes do that when I'm doing videos here because I don't have a lot of room for my mat. I like to take the mat and lay it down on my cutting table, but it's across the room. So we're going to do it with the mat loaded. And I'm also going to need my brayer. So we're going to get our first piece of paper. It was that kind of medium blue. And I'm going to lay it up here in the top left-hand corner of my mat. And it doesn't have to be there. I'm just going to do that for quickness. And I'm going to use my brayer. Give me a second here to bring this down just a little bit so you can see. I'm going to use this brayer to make sure that my paper is well adhered to my mat. And I would recommend the brayer. If you don't have one, I would definitely tell you to get one. All right, so let's go look at our our screen here. So now we're going to retrieve our data. Let me get my little tool here. Retrieve our data. And this is in the cloud because we sent it wirelessly. So I'm going to click that. And you can only send one design at a time. So the next one I send over will delete this one. So this is our first layer. This is just that back piece. Now if you want to, if you don't want to have to do this each time, you can save this either back to a USB stick or into your machine, whichever you want. I've got these saved in my machine, so I'm not going to save it this time, but you could click Save here. I'm going to click OK, and you know, I think maybe it's down just a little bit, so let's pull it up so it's up in the corner. I think that'll be good. Click OK, and then I'm going to say please select and cut. Okay, So I wanted to tell you what I'm cutting with. So I do quite a lot of paper crafting, and I use, you're going to laugh at me, I use the vinyl auto blade. When these machines first came out, they came out, you know, with that black auto blade. I don't think I have mine out here. Let me see. Here's the blackout. This is the auto blade that came in the machine. Okay, this one here. This is a 60-degree blade. When we had our older machines, that was called the deep cut blade. That was in the dark kind of purple holder. The other holder that we had in the older machines was teal colored, and it was a 45-degree blade, and we used it 90% of the time. So I was so happy when they came out with this vinyl auto blade. I don't ever cut vinyl with this. I cut paper, and it cuts so much better because it works much better with detail because it is a 45-degree blade. So this is what I'm cutting with. It's the light blue one, and it's the vinyl auto blade. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then we're going to hit start. So we're ready to go. It's going to start here. And I'll let this cut because this one cuts pretty quick. The one that we're going to be working with, the next one, I'll probably turn the camera off because it does take a little while for the two middle layers to cut. So this one just is about 1 minute. And I've just got it set on auto blade, and it just does such a great job of cutting. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. I'm going to unload my mat with the button, and then I'm going to turn my mat upside down. And this is how I take paper off my mat. If you've ever had trouble with things tearing or whatever, I pull my mat away from the paper. And I leave my paper as flat as possible. It's a little easier if you take it to like your cutting table or someplace like that. And then this little circle is going to be right here, and I'm just going to lay it, grab it with my fingers, and I'm going to pull my mat away from it. And that way you keep your paper flat and not curled. Okay, so there's the first layer. All right, so we'll set this up here. I'm going to load my mat back in here again. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit the little home button up here because we just need to go back to the beginning and click OK. All right, and now let's go back to our software so we can get the next layer. Okay, just got to get the ribs. Got to hit this button first. There we go. All right, so now we're back at our software, and we've already got this design cut. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go back over here to my layers panel over here, and I'm going to click the little eyeball and turn that off. I'm going to then turn on the eyeball to the next layer up, and that is that kind of lighter blue. So we're going to have that one turned on. That's the only one we're going to turn on because we're going to send that to the machine next. And I'm just going to go File, Export, Transfer, FCM File. And again, that warning is going to come up, and that's fine because we only need that one thing. Click OK. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to transfer via the internet. And remember, it will overwrite what was there before. Again, it says that it's ready for download. That's cool. And then we'll go back to the machine and get ready to cut this one. If I can find the button I need. There we go. All right. So here is our machine. I'm going to go ahead and load my paper here. And this is that lighter blue, kind of a baby blue or kind of a sky blue. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just put it up here in the top left-hand corner of the mat. Use my brayer and make sure that it's well adhered. And again, I would tell you to take this over to your cutting table or someplace like that. It's just hard for me to do that when I'm doing videos. So I don't normally do it this way, but this does work when I'm in a pinch. Okay. So then we have it. The fabric or the paper is on, and then we've already transferred the design. So we're going to go up here and we're going to hit Retrieve Data from the cloud again. It's thinking this one was a little more detailed, and I'm going to pull this up into the corner a little bit further. And then again, you could save it if you want to save it to a USB or if you want to save it into your machine, and then click OK. And then we're going to please select cut. And then we're ready to cut this layer. So I'm going to get this one started. Now this one takes a little longer. It says 7 minutes here. So we're going to hit start. I've got it set on auto, of course, and I've also been using the speed of about 5 on my machine. So this one's going to cut. It's going to take about 7 minutes. So I'll go ahead and turn off the camera for a moment while this cuts, and then I'll be back and we'll take it off and we'll get ready for the next layer. Okay, so we're all done cutting. It took about 7-8 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK up here on the machine and then hit the little home button. So we're ready for the next layer. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to unload my mat, and then I'm going to turn this upside down, turn my mat upside down, and I'm going to pull the mat away from the paper. Okay, pull this camera down just a little so you can see the next step. So this one's pretty intricate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my mat back a little bit. I'm going to put my fingers in here, and I'm going to slowly roll the mat away from my cut. And try to keep it flat. And look how beautifully it cut. These machines cut so nicely. So it really does cut well. And look at that. Look at all those little details in there. There's one little teeny tiny little piece up here that just needs to come off, but I think otherwise it's all beautifully cut. Okay, so there's the second layer. I probably should mention that I'm using 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper for this particular layered design. Most of Sarah's designs fit on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. She's from the UK, so they use A4 paper, which is just a little bit smaller actually. So, and then I'm going to take my little scraper here, and we're just going to scrape all these little pieces off the mat. This little trick works well. There's a little reservoir over here, so I just kind of scrape them off and push them over into that, and then I can get a hold of them afterwards. When you get into some of these little detailed things, there's a lot of little pieces. So, but the 8.5 by 11 paper is very nice, and this is the Recollections from Michaels. They have both 8.5 by 11 and then 12 by 12. So if you want 12 by 12 paper, you can get that too. Depends on what you're cutting. Sometimes I do have some 12 by 12 paper as well. So some of the stuff I do need the bigger paper. All right, so we get all these little pieces off of here. This little reservoir over here works really well to put everything in. And then I kind of take my little vacuum cleaner and just vacuum it out when I'm done, because you usually have a lot of little pieces when you're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just load this back into my machine again. Let's put this up so you can see. It's going to hit the load button. Load it back. And then we're going to go back and we're going to work on the next layer. So we get this up here so you can see we've already removed the design from the screen. So let's go back to our software and go back into the layers panel again. And we're going to turn off this layer that we just cut by clicking on the little eyeball, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on the eyeball for the next layer up. And this is going to be a little darker blue, not the darkest one. And I'm going to go ahead then, and I just need to send that one item. So I'm going to go File, Export, Transfer, FCM File. Again, that warning's going to come up. It's okay, because we just need that one layer. I'm going to transfer FCM file via the internet, and it's going to go to my machine via the internet. Okay, so then we'll go back to our machine and get ready to cut this layer. Sorry, I have that little screen you have to see because I have to switch back and forth from my screen sharing to my live camera, so I apologize for that. All right, so we're going to put this on with our brayer. Make sure it's well adhered to the paper, or to the mat, I should say. All right, so this is going to be the third layer. All right, so let's go up here to the screen. Let me raise the camera a little. And we're going to go up here, and we're going to retrieve the data again from the cloud. It's thinking. This one's also pretty intricate. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this up a little bit so we have we have it over to the side. And then again, if you want to save it to your USB or to your machine, you can hit the save button here. I'm just going to hit OK. And then I'm going to please select and cut. All right, so here's our design. We're ready to cut. This is layer 3. So I'm just going to hit start. And this one's going to take a little longer. Yeah, this one takes 8 minutes. So again, I'll turn the camera off and let it cut. So I'm just going to push this down a little bit on the bottom. So we'll let it cut, get started here, and then we'll let it cut, and then I will come back when it's done. And I'll talk a little bit also about the blades so that you have a little more understanding about the blade depths and so on. And then we will get ready for the last layer. Okay, so we're all done cutting with the third layer here. I'm going to go ahead and unload my mat. And then I'm going to hit my little home button up here to go back to the main screen. And then we're going to turn this over. So let me go ahead and pull this back just a little so you can see it a little bit better. It's always hard. I'm a little cramped on this table, so it's a little hard to do scan and cut classes. Okay, so I'm going to turn the mat over, and I'm going to pull the mat away from the paper so that we don't have the paper all curled. Okay, I'll get rid of that piece. And then again, this one's pretty intricate, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push down with my fingers, and I'm just going to gently pull away from my design. Keep your design flat on the table is best, but in my case, my scan and cut. And there's all those little pieces. Look, it all came out beautifully. So look at there. So Joseph's on the right, so we'll turn it this way. There's one teeny little piece up here, and we'll fix that in a little bit. There's one little teeny piece right up here. I'll use a little poker tool that will get that out. But look, isn't that beautiful? All right, so there's the third one. Now I'm going to go ahead and scrape my mat again into the little reservoir over here with my scraper. And we were talking a little bit more about the blades. So I was a little surprised when these machines came out years ago, you know, when the DX models came out, that they put a 60-degree blade with it because of the intricacy of some of these cuts. You can see there's a lot of intricate cuts in here. And 60-degree blades are made more for deep cutting. So I'd be curious if some of you try to cut these out with the 60-degree blade, how it does. I always use my 45-degree blade because I did some experimenting and I found that I got way more, the intricate cuts were way better. So I'd be curious if you use the black regular auto blade, which is 60 degrees, how yours cut. If it cut okay, if it kind of ripped your paper a little bit. So I'll be curious to know that because I don't normally cut with that blade when I'm doing stuff like this. So now I got a couple little pieces of paper back here. I normally don't scrape my mat on my scan and cut either, but we'll be okay. I'll get a couple of these little pieces out of here. I always get just a couple little pieces, you know. So this is what I usually do, is I do this over on my cutting table. Okay, so we're ready for the last layer. I'm going to go ahead, since I've got the camera over here, I'm just going to go ahead and put my paper on. And this is going to be that dark navy blue. Oops, sorry, look, my camera decided it was going to go out of focus for a second. And I'm going to take my brayer and we're going to put it down so it's nice and stuck to the mat. All right, so let's go back to our software and get our last layer. We're all ready to send it now. Just a second here. All right, so we've got the second from the top, the third from the bottom on. So we're going to turn that one off, touch the little eyeball, and then we're going to turn on the top layer, which is going to be that final layer with the design on it. And so I'm ready to send this now to, the other ones are all turned off. I'm ready to send this one to the machine. So I'm just going to go File, Export Transfer FCM File. And again, it's going to give us that warning, which is fine because we don't need the other items. I'm going to click OK. Transfer FCM file via the internet again. And I'm going to send it to my machine. It says it's there. And I'm going to click OK. So what gave me the idea of doing this, and I was so happy when they added this Layers tab. When I got my Cricut, I'm going to show you the Cricut software real quickly again. They have this thing, and I'd never seen it before. I'd never had a Cricut. You know, I've had a Scan and Cut for many years, and before that I had a Silhouette Cameo, and I had a Sizzix Eclipse. So I've had quite a few different cutting machines. But when I hit Make in the Cricut software, so we're in the Cricut software right now. When I hit Make here, I'm not going to save it. This is what gave me the idea of how we could do this. I'm going to tell it I'm going to put it on a mat, a 12 by 12 mat, and I'm going to click Confirm. And what this software does is it mats by color. So that's really cool, because if I look over here on the left, there's my dark one that we're getting ready to send. We just sent to the machine. And then here's the light blue, that medium blue, and then that little darker blue. Okay, so it puts it on a mat for you. So that's what gave me the idea of sending it, since we can turn on and off things with the Layers panel. That's what gave me the idea of just sending it to the machine one mat at a time, or one color at a time. So then you just have the colors all set up. The other thing I wanted to show you briefly, minimize this as well, is Sarah has these lovely instructions, and I have mine printed off here. And with each of her designs, well, most of the ones I have these. So this is Nativity. I have to go to the Nativity. Here it is, Mandala. And this assembly guide, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but I wanted to show you. The other thing that really is nice about this is she shows you each layer in the color that she intended it to be. So that really helps, because then you can look at your colors here and have them broken up so you know what you're working with here. So we have that kind of lighter blue, kind of a medium blue, a real light blue, and then just a little bit darker blue, and then that navy blue. Okay, so she has these really nice papers that also then tell you how to put them together, because she tells you she used foam squares between the first and second layer, and then when you go on down here, she used glue between the second and the third layer, and then foam squares again between the third and the fourth. So that's why she does these little instructions. So Craft with Sarah, I have to say she has beautiful designs, and they are well documented. So that's the other thing, is then you can see your colors. So this was a great little tool. Okay. The other thing she has is she always has a lovely picture of it. So like here's the picture of this mandala, so you can kind of get an idea what it looks like to begin with, and then you can see the broken up pieces on that other document that I just showed you. Okay, so now let's go back to, we got our software, we sent our design already, we're going to go back to our machine. And I have to click the right buttons though, Jan. There we go. So we're going to go back to our machine, and we're going to get our last layer. Okay. So we go up here, we're going to go to Retrieve Data from the cloud again. Just to think for a minute. There's our last layer, and I'm going to push it up into the corner a little bit. If you want to save it, click here, and then we're going to click OK. Please select and cut. All right. And then I'm going to hit start. Now this one's going to take about 2 minutes, so I may pause the camera for just a moment while this one cuts, because it does take a little bit. Make sure that my paper is well adhered here. There we go. Sometimes I have to get the bottom when it's getting ready to cut. So when I'm over here, I like to be able to do things on my cutting table, but this works fine. All right, so I'll be right back when this last layer is finished cutting. Okay, so we got the last layer is done. I'm going to go ahead and hit the little house button up here. And then I'm going to unload my mat, and then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn this upside down, maybe. Have to get it in between the camera here. And then I'm going to pull the mat away from the paper to keep it from curling. Like that. So there's the outside piece. And then we're going to work on this. Now this last layer, just so you know, let me see if I can get this pushed down just a little bit. Okay. Is a little bit open, so you're going to have to be a little careful taking this off so you don't rip anything, because it is a little more open in the middle. So I'm just kind of working my way around the mat here. There we go. I think it's coming. But you can see I'm curling my mat, not the paper. And oops, this is my tree, so we're going to turn it this way. There we go. All right. I think we about got it here. There we go. So you just have to be a little careful with this one because, as you can see, it does have quite a lot of open spots in it. And there's the final layer. Isn't that pretty? So this is going to be our mandala. So here's all of our layers. So we're going to get those ready to go. And then I'm going to clean up my table a little bit so I can scoot over so you can see how I'm going to put this together. I just always need to move my scanning cut back. So give me a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our little mandala put together. Here's the one that we've done already. So I'll set this one up here so you can kind of see it. And I think I'm going to have to tip this down though for right now. So we'll tip this down so you can see what I'm working on. And you're going to need a couple of other things to do this. So this was our 65-pound cardstock that we used in the 8.5 by 11. Here's Sarah's nice little assembly guide that's going to help us know what we're going to use to put in between the layers, because this is going to be dimensional as well. So if you don't know if you can see this one, I'll show it a little more up close. Can you see how it's dimensional? So see, there's a layer here, there's a layer here, and then the back is a layer. Okay, and if you look in the inside, you can see where I have little foam squares. So we're going to talk about those foam squares now. So I have mostly foams. I have little foam squares, these little teeny ones that are about 1/4 inch square. These are really great for small areas. And then I have these other ones that are they're about 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch. These are nice because they're all cut for you. And I get these at Hobby Lobby. And that's about the best place to buy foam squares because they're very reasonable. And then these I think I got at Joann's. So I'll go ahead and link all of these in the description for you too. So these are foam squares. And then the other thing we're going to use is my precision glue press. And this is from My Sweet Petunia is the name of the company that makes this. And they have a website, mysweetpetunia.com. And they have this wonderful glue press. So if you use like wet glues and like craft glues a lot, craft glue is kind of thicker, and so sometimes it's hard to get it out of the bottle. So this little glue press, you can just pull this little trigger back, and oh my gosh, it is so great. And it's got this little saddle. I don't know if you can see the little red rubber mat in the bottom there. It keeps it from getting your glue from getting dried out because it covers the tip. So then you have a little stand to set it in, and this just works great. So we're going to be using both of these to put this together. Okay. I'm trying to keep my laptop out of my way of my elbow so I won't turn it off by accident. All right, so here's our first layer. So we're going to get that first one we did, that solid one, and then we're going to put on this one here. Next, this light blue, and it says to use foam on this layer. So Joseph is on the right, so we're going to turn this upside down so we can put the foam on. Okay, and I'm going to take my little foam squares, and I'm going to start with these bigger ones because then it covers the area more. And the trick with squares, the foam, we don't want it to sag. So you need to have enough foam squares on here to keep your project from having sags in it. So, and I'm going to use the bigger squares as much as I can so that I can get done even faster. So I'm just going to put these on, and it takes a little bit to do this. Oops. But the trick is don't get it in over a hole. So I'm going to turn this one this way. Here we go. And we're going to go up in the middle here where Joseph and Mary and the baby Jesus are. Okay. So that there's no sags in the middle. Now these little teeny tiny little pieces, they'll be fine, but it's these bigger areas that if you press down on it, they might sag on you. So you want to make sure you have some foam so that it's going to support it well. I'm just going to put these on. And then I think I need one maybe here. Okay. Now I've got some little smaller areas here. Maybe one more we could stick over here. And so I'm going to get my little 1/4-inch square ones and put one here. These are all the same height, by the way. You can get thinner squares. And then these little squares, I'm going to put around this outside edge because it's very narrow out there, and I need that support, you know, along the edge. So we're going to turn this, and we're going to put these on here. You can also find strips of foam strips. But this is pretty, you know, with it being round, it's easier to put the little squares on. So we're just going to go around here and just make sure you can't see it from the outside or the inside through a little hole. So I'm going to put this on here. Turn it this way. This is always the fun part, to watch it come to life when you start putting it together. It's amazing how they look. And I've got a couple more samples here that I've done of Sarah's things from craftwithsarah.com that are things that I did not show you in the last video, because I did show you some things in the last video, but I've got a couple new ones that I just made. So I'm going to put a couple of these little ones in here because this could be kind of saggy otherwise, so we'll put those in there. Turn it this way, maybe another one down here. Try not to make the camera go out of focus. Sorry guys. I always have to do this with the camera between my arms, you know. Okay. Here we go. Looks pretty good. All right. So better get this little spot here, and this might sag too. So let's get a couple of these little ones on there. I always have a little trouble getting them. These are pretty close to 1/4 inch, so you have to kind of make sure they don't show. All right, there. I think that'll be pretty good. One of these small ones there. Okay. So then the next thing that we have to do is take all the little papers off of these. So I will pause the camera. I'll show you what I mean. You know, we got these little papers that are on the other side of our foam squares. So then you got to sit here and take all the little papers off. So I would recommend, you know, just being relaxed and taking them off, because it does take a little bit to do it. So I'll pause the camera while I take all of these off, so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this, because it takes me a little bit. Okay, so I finally got all the little papers. You can see my little pile of papers here. That takes longer almost than cutting. It takes me a little bit to get those all off. So the next step is going to be, let me lay this over here, excuse me, is to get this all lined up and then put together. So the trick with these foam squares is they are very sticky, okay? So just be careful that you don't press down on anything until you're ready for it to be where you want it. So what I did with this has like a little triangle up here to help you line it up. So I'm going to grab it from the side, and I'm going to line up that triangle and the top of my circle before I lay anything down. And when you lay it down, it's okay, but don't press down until you're sure you've got it where you want it. That looks pretty good. And then when you're ready, go ahead and press down, okay? I'm a little bit off on this one, which is, it's hard for me sometimes when I'm standing up here. So it is just a teeny little bit off, but it's not, it'll be fine. Okay, so there's our first layer. So just be careful when you're using the foam squares. They are very sticky. Okay, so the next layer, it says, is that little bit medium blue one, and this one's going to be glued on. So now we get to look at this little press, my little glue press here. So let's put this over here. Leave my instructions up here where I can see them. And then we're going to get to our next layer, which is this one. Now this one had a little piece that was stuck in it. So I'm going to get my little pokey tool here. It's a weeding tool, so just so I can get that little piece out of there. Looks like everything else is okay though. Oh. All right, so then we have to make sure we get Joseph the right way here. Joseph's going to be on the right there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be the front. This is the back. So we're going to turn it over this way, and I'm going to take my little glue press, and I'm going to hold this in my hand, and I'm going to squeeze the glue out. So I'm just going to glue. Now we're not going to put glue probably on all those little itty bitty places, but we need to make sure that it's glued down enough that it's going to stay put. So I'm just going to kind of hit the bigger pieces here. I'm not going to try to get in all those little itty bitty places. Go around the outside edge here. Now this glue does dry very clear. So, and this is, it's the glue press, the My Sweet Petunia glue, precision glue press, but it's a Nuvo glue is the glue that's in it. And I really do like the glue. It works very well. And this glue press is just, I finally have gotten so that I can really glue things well with wet glue. Okay, so we're going to turn this over and we're going to do the same thing. Okay. Going to get this lined up at the top. Now this is going to give you just a little more wiggle room for movement because it is wet glue. It's not going to dry immediately or stick like those foam squares do. So it looks pretty good. All right, so then we're going to press this one down. It looks pretty good. So there's the third layer. And we've got one more layer to go. And that one says it's supposed to be done with foam. So we're going to put foam on this one too. Got to make sure we get Joseph going the right way here. So it's going to go on. Oops, I bent my little tip a little bit. Okay, so we're going to get that one. So this is going to be the front. We're going to tip it over, and this is going to be the back. I'm going to tip it over here, and then I'm going to start putting my foam strips or my foam squares back on. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Again, this one's a little more open, so you won't need to probably put quite as many on. There's not as many pieces in the middle. And I'll put these all on, and then I'll take the papers off. So if you give me a moment, I'll go ahead and finish putting these on. I'm going to use the little ones around the outside edge, okay? The bigger ones down here and where I can, and then I'm going to take all the papers off the back of the foam squares, and then I'll be back and we'll put our last layer on. Okay, so I've got all my little foam squares on the back of this, and I've got all the papers removed. Now the one thing I wanted to show you is that this little star here, I thought maybe those points might sag, so I cut one of those little 1/4 inch squares into little thin pieces and stuck them on the little tips of the star there, so they wouldn't sag down. Okay. So we're going to get this turned over. Now this is another one of those. We got to be a little careful too, because this middle section is kind of saggy. So we don't want anything to stick down before we want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the top part here again and get this lined up here the way I want it. Just take your time. And then I'm going to drop Mary and Joseph down here. And, oops, this one's a little bit off, so we just need to pull it. You can get it off a little bit, but try not to have to pull it up because it is sticky. All right. And then just press down when you're ready to when you're happy where it is. All right. And there is I've got one little spot here that I might need to put another little foam square in there. It's a little bit flat right there, but I could fix that a little bit later. But here is our little mandala. And I think, I actually used a little darker color on the one. But here's our little mandala all done up with the layers. And see how the little foam squares are on the edges? And then it gives it nice dimension. Isn't that pretty? So that is a layered design with an SVG file from start to finish. I also wanted to show you a couple of the other items that I've done since I did the first video. I did this Statue of Liberty. So it's done the same way. And there's lots of layers on this. You can see all the layers on the sides, but isn't that neat? So that's one of Sarah's, Craft with Sarah's designs. And then here is a little peacock. And this one has all kinds of little layers on it as well. I thought that one turned out really cute. And then I did a little turkey. And here's the little turkey. And he has a bunch of layers too. So see, there's all the layers of foam on that one. So these are real fun to do. And it's like this one had about 18. This one had 18 layers. I think this one only had 15. But it still has a lot of layers, and they're lots of fun to do and put together. So, but then here's our mandala. Isn't that pretty? I really enjoy doing these, and these look really great in shadow boxes or just hung on the wall. And I've been doing some shadow boxes with mine. So, okay. So in the next video, so this is the layered SVGs. Well, so the next part of the other video that we did was with larger SVG files that were saved as a larger project. So we're going to do something with one of those as well, and I'll hopefully be able to get that done yet this week so that you can see a little project. And I'm going to do like a pop-up flower little basket and show you how that is done. And that's going to be using that tiling feature in Canvas Workspace. So, all right. So these are my little fun things. I've been having fun cutting designs and putting them together, and this has been lots of fun. I've got lots of paper, and I've been going through lots of paper this week. So, all right. So thank you so much for joining me for Sew Along with Jan for the little layered SVG file project of the mandala. Here, the Nativity mandala. And so if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate that as well. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video, and we'll talk more about the tiling feature. Thank you.